What was like that first month like in terms of after the training's done? Like what were you guys doing?
So our first day in the seat, we had an opportunity for a $15 million ground up assisted living facility in Georgia. So we sort of looked at ourselves and went, okay, we don't know what we're doing, but how do we handle this?
There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. You know, people always say, Chris, how can I be a successful broker? It's two words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Entrepreneurs in Finance, where we explore the daily lives of CCTG graduates, lenders, and everybody else in between. And I am, first of all, Happy New Year to everybody. I'm very excited to do the first podcast of 2022 and very pleased to do it with a graduate by the name of Chris Greco with Load Capital. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris, how you doing? Happy New Year to everyone as well. It's good to see you.
Yeah, no, good to see you too. It's always good to talk to another person with the same last name as me or same first name.
Same first, right?
So how are you, man?
Doing great. Doing great. Had great holidays, and like the rest of the world, hopefully just enjoyed spending time with family and friends and loved ones. And now it's back in the saddle and running hard in 2022 already. So
are you dodging the 10 or 15 different variants out there? You're dodging.
Doing our best. We're doing our best. Yeah.
Good.
Everybody's happy and healthy. Yeah. Appreciate it.
That's all you could ask for. So tell me, you've made a little recent news around here, at least at our office, because you had submitted a really cool transaction that we funded through my own company, and it was a fairly large one, but we'll get to that in a second. But
yeah,
tell me about how life has been. From my understanding, you've been at this now for about 4 or 5 months. What month did you come through?
We came through at the end of June, and we went through the full 9. We did the full 9 days. We're a legacy grad, so we also did the marketing piece as well, which was really cool with Joe and the team. And
you're in person or no?
No, we did it through. We just rented an office space, one of those shared spaces, and did it remotely, just because it was one of those time frames where we knew we were going to be masked up and all that fun stuff. So we thought best to just do it virtually. But
okay, all right. Well, yeah, no, it's good to see you, to finally see you.
Yeah, of course.
So talk to me about what was life like before you decided to invest here. I mean, what were you doing, and what led you here? What was the path that led you here?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been in my past history is 25 years or so in business process outsourcing and retail and commercial consulting services for Fortune brands for the most part, and really enjoyed that. Still have lifelong friends at companies large and small that we did some cool deals with, and so just almost that awakening that you hear a lot of people having during COVID about, is this something that I want to continue to do, or do I want to pursue something I've always dreamt about doing, which is owning my own business? And a good friend of mine and partner who you've met as well, Craig, we went and had lunch and sort of brokered the idea of doing some business together. Then we had another lunch a week later, and then he had actually researched you guys a year or two before it and was really intrigued by CCTG. And I guess we both have that entrepreneurial spirit, and I couldn't be happier with where we sit today, which is, it's really my first foray into direct business ownership. He's owns a couple of businesses as well. But we've got a really good partnership and a sort of a base of a friendship, and we walk in every day and enjoy what we're doing. So I'm sure at some point I'll get to how much we appreciate your staff and some things they've done for us to get out of the gate strong. But so that's sort of what led me here. Just this spirit that says, always sort of itching, that says, it's cool to have a nice job, but what if I got to own something? What if I got to bring some employees on, et cetera? So it's been fun so far.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that kind of synopsis. But what led you? So you didn't know who CCTG was before, right? Because we're not like a
I did not.
brand. So like you were probably looking for something else, and like most accidentally stumbled upon us.
Yeah, and yeah, and when again that lunch I referenced with a buddy of mine, he had done some research and had always wanted to move into some more direct financing opportunities, and so he has some experience in things like litigation funding and some of those kind of things. So he brought some experience to the table. I brought a zest to get into finance really for the first time, and that's what we really sat down and we literally on a napkin. I went into your website, downloaded the white paper, had all kinds of notes on it. And it's funny, those things you remember when you launch, right? Is we sat there at a Capitol Grill from, I think, 4.5 hours when we just decided, you know what, we're going to do this and we're going to go all in together. And so we haven't looked back since.
You literally sat there and probably reviewed every video, even podcast, probably, right?
All that. I mean, the waiter wanted us to leave because he's wanting to turn his table, and we're like, listen, we got bigger things going on, so we're not going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere. That's cool. That's all. I love hearing stories like that.
We tipped them well, though. So.
Yeah. No, I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah.
All right. So you took the plunge,
Yeah.
and right around the time that you came through, we opened up in person, and I want to say June was possibly the first class we did that, but
there was a few people in the room, yes,
yeah,
while we were on virtual.
So tell me about the virtual experience, particularly going through as a legacy, which is our highest tier package, which also includes marketing and all the other great things. But like, what was that like sitting there for 9 days? Because the training's a little long, legacy. What was that like?
Sure. Actually, very well organized, as you know, on your part and your team's part. So, all the audio and video and some of the challenges that can accompany that were never an issue. So everything flowed really well. We know that there's not a replacement for that face-to-face, eye-to-eye handshake, right? But it's a very close second, just based on, I think, the work that you guys did to make that be as close to that type of experience as it can be through training, right? So. We thought it was really, really well done. I've sat through all kinds of different conferences and webinars and things like that, and I'd put it toward the top in terms of how organized it was. And we walked out of the 9 days and felt, very prepared. We didn't know what we didn't know. We're still learning every day, and sort of Failing Forward is one of my favorite books that I still lean on today. But I would just say, to answer the question directly, it was very well organized. I would encourage those that may not be able to travel or for whatever reason to say, don't let that preclude you. If you're interested in doing this, we learned, I think, as much as we would have. We just missed the handshakes, and maybe a dinner together that I think you hosted
missed a great dinner at the end of the night.
We missed a great dinner, but maybe down the road we'll hit Albany and have a chance to make that up. But I would give it an A, honestly.
I appreciate
from content to the process to the speakers. From soup to nuts, we felt like it was just extremely well organized, and we were well prepared, I think, to launch in early August. We decided to take a few weeks and get our ducks in a row after the training.
Sure.
And then we went official with our website on August 1st of 2021.
And did you, we have like a pretty sophisticated camera system that can follow me around when I lecture. Did you find that helpful?
I did. And the other cool thing was when we would post a question, you guys are very conscious of who's online.
Sure.
So it wasn't hey, we asked something and 3 hours later, you glance up at the wall and go, actually, Chris has a question. So we felt like we were part of the training. We weren't left out, if you will, because we weren't there in person.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's great feedback. I appreciate the comments. So, all right. So you guys are sitting there after that intensive week, besides taking a couple shots.
Right.
Tell me about the process. You make it, but you mentioned a great concept book and theme, Failing Forward, right?
Yeah.
And what was that? But what was like that first month like in terms of after the training's done? Like what were you guys doing?
A whirlwind, right? Like we come in and we saw, obviously your team, we have leads that come in, the direct leads that the team does a great job with the SEO piece. And I'll sprinkle in some props to some great people that we've gotten to know, Alex and the projects team, from the start to even today. We're evolving some of the things we're doing on the SEO front that he's helping us with. Just super responsive and very helpful. But we were really balancing some indirect leads coming in, right? Because I mentioned my business partner is a pretty connected guy. He's a business owner by trade and entrepreneur by trade. So our first day in the seat, we had an opportunity for a $15 million ground up assisted living facility in Georgia. So we sort of looked at ourselves and went, okay, we don't know what we're doing, but how do we handle this? And so although we didn't necessarily, they ended up sticking to a HUD plan that they had for it, but it was just sort of a cool thing to go, gosh, we've been in this thing 24 hours live, and our first pipeline deal is a $15 million whale. We haven't lost sight, by the way, of the keep the lights on stuff. But it was just a really cool sort of day one for us, right? We were literally, we got home and we're conferencing each other and going, can you believe this? Like,
that is cool.
So combination of some of the direct leads that we try to foster out of the gate, and learn different things. Obviously, I mentioned failing forward. I told you, Chris, we don't close everything, but we learn from every opportunity. And so we had all these direct leads coming in from you guys, and then we mixed in some of our personal network stuff that came in, and just really learning about, hey, when a land deal comes across the wire, which came a week later, how do you handle a land deal that has no net operating income? Who's the right lender? So
yeah, it's
the learning process for that, right? It's not difficult in that it's untenable. It's just learning. And so, okay, I went to a lender that has no interest in land. So let's make that note and not bother them again. But we found, ended up just through perseverance and patience and digging and just really finding some options. As an example of sort of month one was just sort of flying at us.
And I tell people that, your first, even in class, your first couple months are going to be hard because you're growing your sea legs, if you will. And, you're going to blow some opportunities, hopefully not too many, but it's just, it's natural if you do anything, right? I mean, any new career you start, you're going to make mistakes. Any new business you start, you're going to make mistakes, and then you got to readjust, and you can't get under your skin too much. So that's a pretty reflective account of what everybody goes through, I think, of what you guys went through. So, and again, you guys have been at this for 5 months. So, tell me about kind of what led you up to this really big deal that, well, it's a big deal in the MTA world, but tell me about that, and tell me about Gary and how he assisted you and eventually funded that. I'd just love to hear your side of the story, because I know our side. We funded it. So
I'm happy to it's fresh on my mind. Obviously, I'm happy to share it. Before I do, I want to share one quick story that our very first business check came from Diane Rosenkrantz of Tenant, who I know you know well. Okay. We had a long-term rental opportunity up here in the lakes in Georgia, and we worked with her to convert a 401k for the potential borrower. And so technically our first quote unquote check came from, so when we saw her at NACLB, we went over to her booth and we introduced ourselves. She said, I know you guys. We said, you're forever in our hearts, because our first check came from you, and we got it framed and, all that fun stuff. So just know that we're connected. No matter where life takes us, we're connected forever. And she was wonderful to work with through all that, as you know. Awesome. But segueing into the MCA opportunity that we had with Gary and Prime Commercial Lending. So I mentioned our indirect network, and someone in our indirect network is a local tenant rep who obviously helps businesses secure, whether it be in a strip mall or properties for their growing entities. And so she led us to a restaurateur who she is working on multiple leases with as he grows out his concept and his business that's going really well out of the gate. And so we started, she brokered the introduction. We got on the phone with the borrower. We hit it off out of the gate, started asking questions. What we realized was ultimately, and I know you hear this a lot, what we thought was going to be a real estate play ended up being uncovering the real need that he had in front of him, which was faster money so he could use for the launch of a second and a third restaurant for him. By the way, that thrived through COVID. It's a really cool concept that he has, but it actually thrived through COVID versus retracted.
Yep.
And so just kind of sparing you some of the details, we started talking about some of the immediate needs that he had. And I reached out to Gary for some advice. And I will just tell you, from the first phone call with Gary to the closing table, we talked and texted Chris, I'm not exaggerating, in a week's time over the holidays, probably 50 to 60 times to make it happen.
Wow.
And here's what's really cool, other than how knowledgeable and helpful and guiding Gary was through the process, not only with me, but also directly with the borrower, was he answers the phone every time you call. You know, one of the challenges in any business, I think, when things are moving fast is, am I getting your voicemail? And people are busy, and we recognize that. Not one time did I call him. A few times we're at 9:30 at night, and hey, Chris, what's going on? You know,
Yeah.
so I just want to commend not only his knowledge on how to position MCA type products. By the way, we added a longer term line of credit to that deal as well,
Mhm.
to suit some of the longer term growth for this particular entrepreneur and restaurateur. But in summary, I mean, it couldn't have gone better. And Gary was a big reason why.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, Gary handles all our graduates, not only for working capital support needs, but for our own. He's our
Yeah.
rep for our own product. So tell me about it. How much was it? And if you don't mind saying, what'd you take down on that?
Yeah. So we ended up with a $250,000 MCA that was funded a couple of weeks ago, which timing was perfect. And then we added a $100,000 line of credit.
Mhm.
So technically in total 350K.
Mhm.
And yeah, we were in the 5 to 7 point range on the MCA. And then of course, you know how the LOC works. Obviously you created them. So obviously lower numbers there, but the cool thing about that is that upon draw, some comes in as well, you know. So
Sure.
we were super excited about it. And we just went and had dinner with the tenant rep I mentioned, and just brought her a nice bottle of wine, and you know, some of the nice things that says, hey, we wouldn't have even met these guys if it wasn't with you, you know. So it was just an overarching great experience, and we think this customer is going to be with us for a long time. I mean, he's as pleased as it gets, and you know, again, largely due to Gary and Prime really stepping up and getting him funded within 7 days of engagement. We had money in front of him, so he couldn't have been happier.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure that was good for you. I mean, I remember because I signed it, but I think you guys almost got about a $20,000 initial check.
Just
Initially.
under, yeah,
Yeah.
which is really cool. It was a great feeling to get that sort of first one. I mentioned Diane's our technical 1A first one, but this one felt really good, and you know, it's what's so cool about the multiple products that are offered and the multiple lenders, which we've had a great experience with as well, is that there's a solution for just about every business need that's out there when it comes to funding. It's our job to get that path clearer faster for that potential borrower, and that's what we're learning and growing every day in our knowledge base on how to do that. But man, I'd work with Gary all day if I could. So
Good. Yeah,
great.
that's good feedback. I'm sure he watches
Yeah.
this, so I'm sure he'll be very, very
I
happy.
owe him dinner, by the way. I told him, whether I come there or you come to Atlanta, at some point we are going to run into each other, and it is on me, my friend. So
You guys are out of Atlanta, correct?
yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Actually, I got to go to Atlanta in the next couple of weeks. We closed a big deal, $170 million transaction down there. So
Nice.
I'll look
Congrats.
you up. I'll look you up.
Look us up, man. We'd love to meet you for a drink or beer or something, and say thanks
Sure.
for everything you've done and the business that you created that you know, supports not only thousands of brokers out there, but thousands of businesses, you know, that you've been able to help, you know, thrive and sometimes just survive, much less thrive. Right.
And that's what I love about, you know, people always, a common question, there's always these common questions people ask me on these podcasts. And one thing that always has come up throughout the years is that, you know, what enjoyment do you get out of doing what you do? It's stuff like this, meaning like,
Yeah.
you know, I really, 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 it brings a lot of joy, warms and fuzzies, if you will, to me, knowing that, like, look, you came here for an opportunity, you paid for it, we've given it to you. And but the deeper aspect is that you help that business owner, right? And I always say this business is all about helping people, plain and simple. And that business owner possibly wouldn't have got what they got, unless unless you had found us and come through here. You know, I mean, they wouldn't have got it if that never happened. And that's awesome to me. I mean, you made
Yeah.
some money. They fulfilled their dreams with whatever they needed the money for, and that's a good
Yeah.
feeling. You know.
Couldn't agree more.
You mentioned NACLB, so you did make it, and I apologize if I don't remember you seeing you there because I was crazy, but you did make it out to this year, right?
We
NACLB.
did. We had a blast.
What was your experience with that?
It was great. So we spent every day, we went into the lender side, and
And,
walked through it.
and those of you that don't know, real quick,
Yeah.
NACLB is kind of a conference that it's the largest broker conference in the country that I chair and I founded. And it also acts as a CCTG reunion conference every year. So with that preference, tell me about it. Because you only been in this game for 2-3 months, and then you went to NACLB.
At that point, yeah, we were shiny and new, but we went in with a mindset that says, let's shake a lot of hands. Let's not only in the lender community that supports CCTG grads, and but also some fellow brokers, and hearing a lot of the questions that were asked, sitting in some of the panel discussions, felt like it was very helpful for us when it got down to brass tacks and the groups got a little bit smaller. The breakouts were really effective, and again, I've got a notebook this thick on some things that we learned, and it was great to see some of the recognition and some of the inspiration. I've heard Tim and Bennett and some of the other ones quite a bit. In fact, Bennett was one of my very first conversations before we decided to take the full plunge, and you know how great he is. And so it's just a true sort of brotherhood, sisterhood, in terms of just, we walked away with a feeling of inspiration, I think is the best way to put it, right? And the sessions were not so sort of gruesome that I think CES is going on out in Vegas as we speak, and it's a consumer electronics shows. And back in the day, I would stand on my feet and work a booth from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and couldn't walk at the end of it. It was so tiring.
Right.
But this was a really cool experience. It was really well put together. I think I had put some feedback back to you guys on a little survey, but we'll be there for life. I mean, we're coming. We're already looking forward to October of 2022. So we learned a lot, and it's also a nice breakaway from the everyday, and it's a great environment. And so it was fun.
We're a very upbeat, energetic conference.
Yes.
Like with a lot of our events that we do.
It was great.
And actually this year I could say we got, we had Sugar Ray Leonard last year, who was great. I don't know if I don't know if you caught his session, but it was great.
I did. Yeah. It's awesome.
This year we have Damon John. Shark
Tank. Really? I'm
a
Shark Tank. I watch him. I've probably seen just about every episode. So that's awesome. Do you know him personally, or?
I don't know him personally. However, I do know another gentleman on there personally, Robert.
Okay.
Who's
Robert. Okay.
Virtuvac. So.
Virtuvac. Okay. Cool.
In any event, because we dabble in some other worlds, car worlds and things like that. So he's a big. My
favorite Robert quote is, "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness."
Oh yeah. He is the kind for sure.
Right. So
that's awesome. Well, no, I'm glad you had a great time. I'm glad you found it useful, and with the legacy package, you have no excuse of not being there because it's free.
Well, true. But here's the thing. I would just leave you with this thought about it. We'd come anyway. Because we got a lot out of it. So the fee is not something that would preclude us from, spending time there, building relationships there. The evening stuff is fabulous. Like I said, we had a great time networking, right? Which is half the reason to be there, right? Yes, we learned.
And I'm sure you met other grads, right?
Oh, we absolutely did. And we're able to swap some stories, and so it was overall, we would give it a great experience, a vote for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, I wish we could talk more about your business, but I know it's only been 5 months, right? But I think the highlights. but tell me, what's on the horizon for 2022? What are your goals? What are your aspirations?
Yeah. So what's interesting, I'll share one specific opportunity that came across the wire, and it's funny. So we left one of your most successful grads that was up on stage, I believe it was the grad of the year, got to know a little bit and said hi to. And so we had an opportunity come across the wire after the conference in like early November. It's still alive today, but it's like a $45 or $50 million bridge to what we'd call a ground up construction mixed use hotel. It's halfway done. So it's got some unique aspects to it. So started looking through the lender book on who plays in that space and was having trouble really identifying, I think, the right one. And I literally picked up the Dealmaker magazine that, we walked away with.
Yeah, our
And I
public.
started reading, and I started reading about, Capital Atlantic and Kimmy, and I started going through it, and I read her article. Not only, by the way, big time congrats to her, but also specializing in some of the things that we just started in, right? Which is this very large opportunity to support this ground up, or semi ground up opportunity, and then, ground ups sprinkled through the article. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to just sort of break the mold here. I'm just going to reach out to her. I don't really know her that well, but I'm just going to call her, answer the phone. We talked for 20 minutes. Her exact quote, or I'll paraphrase, was, Chris, I'm happy to help you with this. My goal is to give back, to CCTG grads. And it's a great pleasure of mine, to be able to help you through something like this, pull me onto conference calls, learn from me, et cetera. And so she's been great. It's still alive. These take time, right?
Sure, they
40,
do.
50, 60. They're whales you chase, and we enjoy the chase. We haven't lost sight of some of the MCA type stuff we've already talked about, but I just wanted to share that with you, not only to on camera give Kimmy some big time props on how responsive she was, but also just that giving spirit is something really cool. And one of our goals is to get on that panel one day. And I think that would be a nice litmus test on success, not only from a revenue generation perspective, but also that's an opportunity to sort of, to use that same example, to give back and to share our experiences and challenges and successes with that next batch that comes in 2022 or 2023 and beyond.
Yeah, it would be awesome. And you know what? You're on your way there, brother. You really are.
I appreciate that.
You have a great attitude about this business, which you have to have. I mean, I think the people that one of the many qualities that when people get in this business and they don't do as well as others, there's a lot of different qualities that we've looked at. But one of the other things is you just have a bad attitude. I mean, if you have a bad attitude and everything's negative and, you're just, that comes across to people too, and when you talk to people, it just comes across, but you guys have a great attitude. I
appreciate that. Yeah. Thanks.
So,
and then just, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
I was just going to add, we went ahead also, just as a quick note about load, we did go ahead and hire 4 ICs we've already got them on our website and introduction. Alex was fabulous. And the whole team got our sort of meet the team link now is website.
6 months into it and you already got ICs. I love it.
And there's different schools of thoughts on, is that too early? Is it not? But I will just say this, these guys, probably not surprisingly, they're in our network, they're trusted friends and colleagues. And so the risk factor was low, or is low. The value prop is high based on what they bring to the table. In fact, each of them in their own way have already brought an opportunity to the table that we're working or multiple ones. And so we did it in December, and they sat through a little bit of the December, three or so of the days that you were training.
Right.
In December, we were in the background, and so they'll be great with us, I think.
And the only downfall, not a downfall, I say the only risk in that at that stage, and people have done it. People have done it 3 months into the business, but I always caution people. I feel like you guys are good, but you got to be careful of bringing on talent that, and I talk about this in class when we talk about IC,
of course,
bringing on really good talent, but not knowing about your business yet. Because if they soon realize that you don't know what the hell you're doing, when you own a business, you got to lead people, whether they're an IC or an employee or whomever.
Yes. Agreed.
Sometimes you could waste good talent because you're going to be like, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about, and I'm working for this group, and they'll leave. But that's the only risk in that at this stage of the game, which I say most of us wait about 12 months. But it sounds like you guys know what you're doing, which I believe you do. And 6 months into it, and you're rocking and rolling. So God bless you.
Well, to close that out, we mitigated the risk a little bit by knowing these folks well, right? So to go to your point, to go find them on the street and do all the searching and the HR pieces, and you just don't know what you don't know. I agree wholeheartedly that would have been a little bit too soon for us, but because these 4 guys with us right now are, we know them, we've worked with them, we've had, worked with the same companies before, they're vetted, they're friends. That's why we felt comfortable. Let's go ahead and jump in and let's get some good sort of velocity, if you will, going by bringing on some folks that are also equally interested in joining, right? So
Love it.
yeah, it's a good thing, and we're giving them as much support as we can right now, but expecting a lot out of them in 2022.
I wish you continued success. So at
Thank
this
you.
point, in the podcast, I want to kind of switch gears, and we're going to get our viewers to know a little bit, some intimate details
Sure.
about you outside of you
All
being
right.
legacy graduate that has
Of
found
course.
pretty early on success. But so listen, if you weren't, if you could have any job in the world, anything, it could be
Yeah.
absolutely anything. You could just transplant yourself and you're there. What would it be?
I'd be the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels basketball team.
Okay, cool. You're a
If
basketball.
there's no parameters,
Yeah, no.
I went to the UNC. I bleed Carolina blue.
Yeah.
My brothers went there, and so if you looked at my basement, you would see more Carolina blue than you probably ever want to see.
Okay.
But I'm a basketball guy at heart. I coached my son growing up in AAU, and from probably sixth grade all the way through, high school. And he's actually playing college basketball in Macon, Georgia at Mercer University. So we just were there last night and watching them play. And so basketball's kind of in our blood. I'm a North Carolina guy. It's where I grew up. So if I could do anything, it would be to go move to Chapel Hill and lead the Tar Heels against Duke, who I promise not to curse on your podcast, but I'm going to leave Duke out of this. But that rivalry is there, whether, when I was a student, they weren't a favorite of mine and they never will be. But no, I'm of course being a little cheeky. But no, that's what I do. I'd go coach college basketball because I love investing in youth and I love the game. And I think it would be a really cool thing to do,
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I ask a lot of grads this. What is like the quirkiest thing that you would tell somebody about yourself that we wouldn't normally know about you?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Gosh, there's a Rolodex in my mind going right now on all my little quirks, but I look across the end of my office or the back part of my office, and I have this little putting mat. It's like an 8-foot mat called Perfect Practice, and I have a putter and a couple balls, and it's got all kinds of grids and lines for people that struggle with putting because I enjoy the game. And so what I do every day, Chris, is when I'm here is around lunchtime, when I start to get a little hungry, I stand up and I challenge myself to make 10 8-foot putts in a row into this little sort of half the size of an actual putting cup. And so it's designed to improve putting. And if I miss 1 out of 10, I just don't eat lunch that day. And I basically, it's good because it helps me avoid, going to the buffets and eating too much all the time. And then at the same time, it helps me
How many times do you not eat lunch then? That's the question.
I don't want to tell you that part.
Okay.
But it's actually made me, it's funny. I try to transition that onto the golf course, and I've had a few, $10 Nassau pressure putts, and I feel like that's helped me a little bit in concentrating when it matters. So,
you know who else has that in your legacy? And I think you work with him, is Lucas, your processor, right? Because with
and Lucas.
So Lucas has the same thing in his office.
Oh, okay.
Believe me, he eats lunch. Don't make a mistake. He eats lunch, but he has the same thing in his office, that putting thing. So that's something you could ask him about next time.
I'll talk to him about it. And again, you opened the door for me to give you 15 seconds on Lucas. He's phenomenal. We had a deal, the tenant deal I mentioned with Diane. We started to, I'll spare you the details, but we needed to move it to another lender at the last minute, and called him at 6 o'clock at night, answered. I said, "Hey, Lucas, how long would it take you to package everything that we just did for the last 50 days and have it where I could send it to?" And in about 12 minutes, I had an email with 15 attachments, all the information, organized, was able to send it in 15 minutes. So I'll just give you an example. He's been fabulous to work with as our loan processor. He really has.
Good. No, I'll be sure to pass on the word.
Please do.
What do you hate about this business?
Well, hate's a strong word. I would say, I mentioned failing forward. I think one of the challenges, Chris, is when we as a brokerage house think that a deal is really, really good, right? And we feel like we found a really good lender option or two. And then, it could be something as simple as a 10-unit apartment, in a more rural part of a state around here in the Southeast, that we got news from a lender that said if it was a 9-unit, we'd lend, but because it's a 10-unit, we won't even look at it. It's those kind of things that I think, of course, lenders have underwriting principles and they have to mitigate risk, and it's no offense to them. But I think hate's too strong. I think a frustration can come in when we feel like we've almost gotten everything aligned to the finish line, and something like a zoning misunderstanding on a zoning permit that, certainly appears to us that it's right, but to them, they found something, the little nuance that can throw what could be a really good deal, toward the end of something off is just frustrating. It's not a hate. It's
Sure.
just a frustrating thing that says, gosh, we had this borrower on the hook, and now we've got to deliver a message that, in this, and we've had just a couple of those. Nothing, that's not necessarily a common thing. It just, sucks when you have to tell somebody we can't get you the, the money. So that's really it. It happens. We understand it.
And one last question for you. If you could actually, if you could wake up and sit down with and have dinner with anybody that has since passed on in the history of the world, okay, or that's here with us present, who would it be?
Wow. That's a good, thought-provoking question. I mentioned sports and basketball, so of course my mind goes to Kobe Bryant. My son grew up with his jersey, slept in his jersey, from probably 4th grade up to 8, that kind of world. And of course, it was sad.
You're a basketball guy, so that makes sense.
I'm a basketball guy. Michael Jordan went to North Carolina, so. But honestly,
who do you think's better all time, Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant?
Wow. I mean, I'm a Jordan guy because, as much as I love Kobe.
In our era, I would say Jordan too.
I got to be a Jordan guy, and he's a Tar Heel through and through too. So I'm going to stick with MJ, but
okay.
But both of them would be awesome. But I got to tell you, when I think about it, as I get a little bit older and start to have a little bit more perspective on life, I always think of, as we just went through, not too long ago, some of the racial unrest that unfortunately can come to the table, and I started to just think through a lot of that, and that's weighed heavy on me. And I would just say probably MLK Jr. would be someone that if I could just sit down with one person, whether it be for 5 minutes or actually have the honor to break bread with somebody who was so honorable and woke up every day with such a purpose-driven life in his 39 years on the earth, it would be him. It would be an honor.
That's awesome. I don't think we had that before, Joe, right? No, we've never had that answer before. So great. All right.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's interesting perspective. So now as we wind down, you have a chance to kind of pick on me. Yeah. It could be anything. Personal. It could be what kind of hair gel I use. It could be anything you want. Feel free to ask me. I'll give you some.
I'm not going to ask you how much your belts cost that we saw at NCABL. I'm not going to do that. But I'll tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. Let me ask you one business question, and then I'll ask you one personal question.
All right, shoot, go ahead.
So I'll start with business. One of the things that we're pivoting to, it's been in there since our inception, but we're really focused on commercial real estate products. If you go on our website, it just pops out at you as a primary offering from us. Working capital, of course, ABL, of course, but we really want to start getting a little more aggressive. I think Atlanta's a great area. We can touch the Southeast in different ways, et cetera, with all of the CRE opportunities. But just your thoughts around trends in that particular space. Are there anything that you're seeing, around there that would be good advice for, us and people that may view the podcast? And as a secondary question to that, any trade shows or conferences, whether it be attend in person or listen to, that's focused on commercial real estate that hasn't been mentioned before, or you've been enlightened about, or recently been able to see? We really want to get more aggressive in that space if we can.
Yeah, I mean, real estate's always a safe space to play in as a broker, relatively safe. I say that,
Yeah.
COVID hit, and for 3-4 months, the capital markets basically froze, and nobody was funding anything because we thought the end of the world, the end of the world was at our doorstep here. But in any event, I would say, for the foreseeable future, and there's a couple things that could play out, but real estate is good. I mean, listen, multifamily is always on fire. People need apartments, and particularly, I think, with interest rates due the rise, I don't think it's going to rise dramatically, but I think over time
Mhm.
it's going to rise. At some point, it's going to push a certain portion of the population out of actual home buying, right? So,
Mhm.
meaning like it's going to force people to rent, and if
Okay.
rates keep climbing, right? Um, and there, and the multifamily sector is going to explode. It already has, right?
Right.
So, there's always going to be a need for that. And I have friends of mine that own 12,000 apartment buildings. You know what I mean? I mean,
Right.
I have people that we finance, our clients that own 12,000 apartment buildings, and they have the same outlook. Because I asked them, and they say that the apartment phase is exploding, and particularly a lot of these, you're going to see a wave. A lot of these developers now are doing a wave of developments where there's these really cool amenities, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, really cool amenities and building communities around the apartment complex. So I think multifamily is going to be hot. It's always going to be hot. Fix and flip is still going strong, really strong. I mean, that's kind of your paying the bills, bread and butter in the
Yeah.
in the finance commercial real estate world, because those things close relatively quickly as opposed to a CMBS loan or something of that nature. Um, so I think that's going to be a huge opportunity coming down the pike. Also, I will tell you, and I'm going to say this because this is a little self-absorbed, if you will, but I'll say it to you now because you asked me the question. But
Yeah.
us Prime, we're coming out with a revolutionary new way of financing, project financing, so large deals. I'm talking about deals in the 50, 100 million, half a billion to $1 billion,
Wow.
$1 billion valuation. We're actually going to coming out with our own product as a direct lender. It's not a thing that we're subbing out, where we're going to be capitalizing on those large projects, and probably at the end, I'd say the beginning of the second quarter, we are going to be unveiling it to our CCTG database. So be on the lookout for that.
Okay, that's great. I mentioned a large one we have in front of us. So
Yep.
based on our experience with Prime to date and Gary, I mean, and
No.
obviously our trust in you, like it's a sort of a great thing when a grad gets to work with you guys directly. Again, the other lenders in the book have been fabulous. But it may be something to offline, the timing could be really good with a couple of larger things that we have on the horizon.
Sure. Yep. I mean, we're testing it now with some of our own, not testing it, but we haven't opened it up to the brokerage community.
I
I
got
just we just completed a $170 million funding in Georgia, which that went very well, and we're kind of
you. Yeah,
working out
congrats on that too.
with our processes and such. So, but
Sure.
yeah.
Okay.
So where to find deals? I mean, any type of association that deals with real estate, any
Yeah.
type of association. Particularly go after the people that surround real estate. So any type of realtor association, commercial realtor associations. So it doesn't have to be just an association that deals with the owners and investors or sponsors, but people that play in the ballgame. So think about a real estate transaction. Who's in a real estate transaction? There's title companies, right? There's the broker
Yeah.
who sells it. There's the seller's attorney. There's buyer's attorney. There's the insurance agent. So there's all these different people that are around a real estate transaction. So go branch out into those associations that they're a part of, right?
Right.
Uh, which is really really good. So,
Well, thank you for
um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. The biggest social media tool for people in your position and people in our industry is LinkedIn. So,
Yeah.
don't be shy on LinkedIn. Connect with as many people as possible. I know your package comes with a service like that we do it for you, but even go above and beyond. I mean, LinkedIn is huge. You could find investors, you could find realtors, you could find brokers, and
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest tools in our industry that we
Yeah.
utilize. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's really good advice as always, and look forward to leveraging that. Now, personally, I'm just going to flip the question because I liked it so much. and we don't get a chance to spend enough time with you, obviously, with how many directions you're pulled in, but I'm going to flip the question to you. Like,
Go ahead, I'm
who
ready.
would you sit down with and why? And, if you had a chance to have dinner or conversation or what have you, who comes to mind for you?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I've answered that question before. And so naturally, if you asked me that question 6 months ago, if I could sit down with anybody, past or present, I would choose, people forget about this, but it makes sense. I would choose Jesus. I would choose Jesus. I mean, what
Right.
better person do you want to sit down with and have a discussion with, right? If you think about it,
Right.
if you look back in
Wine included.
yeah, I would choose Jesus. You know what I mean? Yeah, wine included, break some bread.
Bread and wine. So you're good.
We got a lot to talk about. You know what I'm saying? So
I got you. I like that.
but on a little more serious
Yeah.
note, I would always say Jesus. I don't know if you realize in class, but my father passed in May of this past year. And gosh, you don't realize how many questions or things you wish you would have said until someone's gone, right? So if you'd ask me right now if I could sit down and talk to anybody for an hour or two, it'd probably be my father who
Oh, I
passed.
appreciate that. And
Yeah.
we listened to you, were kind enough to share. And again, my condolences. The pain can ease a little bit over time. It doesn't totally go away. I was really
Yeah.
close with my dad too. So
Okay.
he's
Yeah.
up there for me too. But the Frozen Chosen story that you shared with everybody, when during our June stuff, that hit home to me too. So it's always nice when really successful people are also vulnerable enough to share what matters to them personally and
Sure.
some of those things that we all go through, right? Regardless of where business takes you, we're all human, and so I'm sure he was a special guy.
Yeah, no, he was. He definitely was. Affected me in a lot of different ways, more than I even knew. And I
Yeah,
really realized till after he was gone. But in any
sure.
event, well, I appreciate those questions. I think it's time to wind this down because we have about an hour and we're encroaching on that. But listen, I really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, especially only 5 months into this, to kind of sharing your experience with myself and the people who view this podcast. And I think it really adds insight. There's a lot of, people always say, a lot of times what affected their decision to come here is watching these podcast episodes. So I really appreciate your
That's good.
insight. And I wish you continued success in 2022.
Same to you. My last comment would be it's actually wonderful to hear that if we inspire others to join and grow and be successful in their lives with their families, and that's a wonderful thing. And I'm just going to end with just a quick one more props to the support group, Chris. Your team. I think when you have a syndicated support model with 1,000+ brokers that have graduated, there's an initial sort of fear of, am I going to be a number? Am I going to have to get in line? Am I going to get responsiveness? And I got to tell you, every one of those are just big time check marks for us. And I could just go down the list of everybody that works for you that we've had great experiences with, but across the board, just know that we appreciate, especially being new to this, we just appreciate the attentiveness and the responsiveness of your team.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will
Sure.
be sure to pass that along to them. So
Okay.
with that being said, okay, well, that wraps it up for the first episode of 2022 of our podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at CCTG. Just type in Commercial Capital Training Group on YouTube and you'll see it. Subscribe to it. We already have, I think, 3,000, which I know is small compared to Joe Rogan, but
You'll get there.
it's 3,000 dedicated people, I guess, interested in
That's right.
finance. Good, but in any event, don't forget to subscribe to that, and hopefully, who knows, maybe I'll be interviewing you someday. So, thanks everybody, appreciate it. Thank you. Good seeing you again, and we'll
Same
catch
to
you.
you.
Yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Chris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business.